This episode with Thaddeus Owen is one of our runs of Dumb It Down, where we take a woo-woo topic and we extrapolate. And I am the layperson in the conversation every time, and Thaddeus is the savant in the conversation every time. And he hits us with so many goodies. He does the research. He goes into the nooks and crannies, the crevasse of these topics, and he is able to extrapolate them and literally dumb it down for the layperson. This episode is all about 5G technology, and it's worrisome because less is more does not work with 5G towers, okay? You need more, and you need more, and you need more. And it's worrisome because, well, let's be honest. Do we really want to microwave our fucking brains? I don't really want to. And it's beyond me. I'm a sacrificial lamb. We have kids. And I don't want my daughter to be fried before she's even a teenager. We don't know. We're the guinea pigs of 5G technology. And Thaddeus goes in depth about what it does to our genetic code, to our DNA, and you might as well just go, meditate in a microwave to get your rocks off instead of using a 5G phone. We are the guinea pigs, folks, but hey, whatever, right? As long as we got faster internet. And the funny thing is it's come out that these 5G towers aren't even making your internet faster. Our internet's already fast as shit. All right. Well, I'm hesitant to even use sponsors on this podcast. So I'm just going to say that this episode is brought to you by Stationary Astronaut and Primal Hacker. A couple of renegades, a couple of mavericks willing to break open seals that might not ever be stitched back together. And we do it to further the conversation, because if we don't talk about this stuff, well, then what good is it? We need to talk about these fringe topics, because let's be honest, man, we have just been tested on and tested on. They roll things out. We never get asked for our permission. And then we pick up the pieces on the back end with our health. And all it does is just boost for-profit medical community. And I come from the medical capital of the world, where the Mayo Clinic is putting these towers on every goddamn corner. And it's so ironic because you try to use the internet within their buildings, and every block has a Mayo Clinic building in Rochester, and the internet's slow as shit. So what's that going to do? It's going to incentivize us to be picking up our 5G phones when they start rolling them out. Who knows? Who knows? But what I do know is my wife suffers from migraines. That probably won't get better. I don't want my daughter to suffer from migraines too, like her and her mom. It's terrible. My sister gets bad migraines. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Cancer, brain tumors. Ugh, it's ugly. But we're the guinea pigs. And we have become enslaved to our smart devices. Thaddeus on past podcast just talks about leaving. He never puts his phone in his pocket because those are microwaves you're putting close to your genitalia. And we've seen a spike in testicular cancer. This stuff is real. It's just, are we even privy to it? Are we even paying attention to how these things are affecting us? Because we are phase one. We are the beta group. These goddamn smart devices we're enslaved to. I love them. Don't get me wrong. They've connected me to so many people all over the planet. I can chat with my friends in New Zealand, Australia, Germany, the UK. with the quickness on WhatsApp. I love it. I do. I love it. But at the same time, I guess I'm just willing to have these tough conversations and try to be more aware. It's dangerous. Man, there was a study that these college students did where they tried growing plants by a Wi-Fi router. And the plants weren't doing so hot growing by the Wi-Fi router. Same plant, same amount of sun, away from the Wi-Fi router, blossomed. Okay? We're frying ourselves. And I think it's very important when we have invisible waves around us, we should probably try to understand what they're doing to us and maybe start safeguarding our homes with whether it be copper or whatever that may be. I think the future will be us building our houses with hempcrete and lining them with copper just to protect us from the technology that runs our lives. Because we are growing a little bit too comfortable, and it's up to us to understand and because the first step is awareness. So it's up to us to just be aware and be okay with not having the answers. The unfortunate thing is that these capitalists, these corporate entities, they pay attorneys to fucking lie. And then they come out and say, no, but it's totally safe. But it's not totally safe. And it's okay if it's not. They just need to admit it to the common man, to the public, that it's not. We don't have all the answers yet. But they don't. They are in it for the almighty dollar, and they want it quicker because they got to roll out. They have investors who are reliant on that bottom line rising. So they roll out things that are unhealthy for our literal genetic makeup. So you are going to get a lot out of this episode. Just know that it was very risky for me to release this, hence the reason I waited almost a year to release it. But I think the time is now. And next week, I'm going to release our episode on water, given a 3M spill that just happened again. We are going to go in depth about water and Thaddeus's experience with 3M in a metropolis in the Twin Cities where they were hiding spills of chemicals, and it has a hindrance on everything because water is our makeup. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this show. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you rate our podcast, Stationary Astronaut, on YouTube, on iTunes, on Spotify. Follow us on Spotify. Make sure you're just kind of tapping in Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. I appreciate you all joining us for this ride. We've worked very hard, and we've got a brand new studio that is ramping up. We're about to do a hard opening, and the Astro Network is coming along, so be patient with us, but it is coming. I hope you all are enjoying the winter. Don't worry, the days are getting longer. With that being said, enjoy the show.
I'm gonna be high as a fucking man.
And now, the Stationary Astronaut.
All right, this is episode 1 of Dumb It Down with Thaddeus Owen and the Stationary Astronaut.
All right.
Is that a good name?
I don't know. Is it a good name?
Well, because what we're trying to do is kind of educate the layperson on important core issues.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's what you specialize in, is dumbing it down for a layperson like me.
I hope so. I want to make it understandable because I don't understand this shit for a while. I have to study it for way too long before I do. So I don't want to make it that complicated for everyone else.
What really got this ball rolling is we had you on the Stationary Astronaut podcast, and Thaddeus, I feel like we didn't even crack the surface of what needed to be told and heard.
There's so much, and it goes deep.
Now, we did crack the surface of 5G technology with the episode we did.
We skated on the surface.
And the ice was still frozen.
Yeah.
And now it's melting.
Now we're ready to break through.
So we're going to dig deep into the depths. Let's leave no stone unturned.
Let's do it.
Now, can you kind of break it down what EMF is for us?
Yeah, so this is the really big thing. People hear EMF, sometimes they get scared of the term. It's an acronym. It really just means electromagnetic fields. Super simple, but here's something that's, you need to know the truth about EMF, right? So EMF is 100% natural. We've had EMF on this earth forever. It comes from the sun and it comes from the earth. So the sun sends energy to us, ultraviolet waves, infrared waves, visible light that we can see. That's all EMF. The earth has a magnetic field that comes from our core. That's EMF. And then we also have what's called a Schumann resonance. So the Schumann resonance is 2,000 lightning strikes every second on the surface of the earth. So that's plasma that comes from the sun, put into clouds, and then sent into the earth, putting electrons, negative energy into the earth. That creates a Schumann resonance at a specific frequency. All of those things, our body is designed and attuned to use for health always.
432 hertz?
So the Schumann resonance is 7.83 hertz.
Okay.
That's called the Earth's pulse.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So that there's other resonances that are the love frequency and there's healing frequencies. Schumann resonance only oscillates between 3 and 60 hertz, but 7.83 is where it tends to fall. And that exactly matches alpha theta waves in our brain. Our brain is tuned to that Schumann resonance.
Certain times of the day, is there a different level of Schumann resonance?
So the Schumann resonance is completely dictated by how many lightning strikes are hitting the earth at any one time. That is 100% what sets the Schumann resonance is the lightning strikes. So it does vary throughout the day. It varies by how many storms are hitting and lightning is hitting the ground, putting electrons into the earth. That's solely how Schumann resonance is formed. And you have to remember that that's been around since the earth has been here, since humans have been on the earth at least. And our bodies are tuned and designed to use EMF as information. So this is one of the truths that people maybe get a little uncomfortable with because they don't understand enough of the science, which nobody has to necessarily understand it. But to know that something you can't see, hear, feel, or touch can affect you in profound ways, more than food, more than anything else you can see, feel, touch, or taste. These magnetic, electric, and microwave radiation fields, these invisible fields, are affecting us in extremely profound ways that go way beyond anything else that you're doing to your body, nutrition and otherwise.
Is that why I'm more productive during the storm season in the summer?
There's a lot of reasons why you're probably more productive in the summer, and that might be one of them. So those electrons from the earth, you can soak those up. Think about why we've got sweat glands on our hands and our feet. Like, what would be the purpose of that? That opens up our body, and those sweat glands act as antennas to receive information invisibly from the air. And when your hands and feet are a little bit moist, you can absorb more electrons from the surface of the earth if you're in contact with it. And those electrons are pure energy and information for your body. So that's one of the things people don't understand. Like, think, how does this invisible stuff provide information to my body to keep it healthy or to harm it, to hurt your body? Well, we know that invisible information is sent on wavelengths of light or EMF all the time. How does your cell phone wirelessly send a text, an Instagram post, a photo to somebody else's phone or a million other people's phone if you're lucky enough to have that many followers? How does it do it? It does it wirelessly through wireless radiation through the air. It sends information that's picked up by an antenna, decoded into a photo, into words, into your voice. That's information wirelessly transmitted through the air. Your body was designed to do the exact same thing with EMF that we receive every day. And when we receive this information through the air from 5G and other wireless radiation that man has made, we were never designed to use that. And yet every antenna on our body is using that information and getting completely confused. That's what we're going to talk a little bit more about today.
So why can it be damaging?
So, right, let's go back to magnetic fields, electromagnetic fields, so EMF. So these magnetic fields, electro fields, microwave radiation fields, radio waves, all of these things are pure information, right? And so they all have a biological effect on the body. And we know that invisible energy has negative effects on our body because think about x-rays. Like, how many x-rays do you want to receive in a year? Probably not very many. How much gamma radiation or nuclear radiation do you want your body absorbing? We know that directly damages our body. It's called ionizing radiation. And so we know that these invisible signals can damage our body by directly hitting our body and removing an electron from the shell of our atoms. And so when you remove an electron, it's a very charged particle, and it creates havoc. It wrecks the DNA in the body. So it directly damages the DNA when you absorb radiation that removes an electron, and it creates free radicals and damages your DNA. That's ionizing radiation. So everything that's not ionizing radiation supposedly cannot make an electron jump out of the shell and damage DNA. That's called non-ionizing radiation. So I've got a paper here, a couple papers. So one thing is, the wireless industry tells you that all of the microwave radiation they use is non-ionizing and therefore non-harmful. Only ionizing radiation can be harmful. Unless non-ionizing radiation, that from cell phones, heats your body up, and then by a heat effect, they're saying it causes damage. So one way non-ionizing microwave radiation from your phone can damage you is by heating up your body tissues. And that's what we've tested throughout time. Every cell phone goes through a safety test called the SAR, specific absorption rate. And if it doesn't pass the SAR, they can't put it on the market. And the SAR measures the rate of heat transfer, so heating up of human brain. It's actually a dummy that they have with a brain filled with glucose and water, which in no way mimics the human brain. But if the cell phone doesn't heat that brain up by a certain degree in a certain amount of time, 6 minutes, the phone is considered safe. Because the only thing we're looking at is non-ionizing heat-based radiation. That test is 100% flawed, and even 5 to 8 agencies in the U.S. government say that's a bullshit test, and every private agency says that test is completely flawed. So how does it hurt us? I've got 5,000 research papers here. If you go to bioinitiative.org, you'll find 5,000 research papers that have studied how microwave radiation, non-ionizing radiation, harms the human body. In front of me, I've got color-coded 50 of those studies, a summary of them. Stress proteins, disrupted immune function, fertility effects, oxidative damage, DNA repair failure, disrupted calcium metabolism, brain tumors, leaky blood-brain barrier, sleep, neuron firing, EEG, memory, learning, and behavior changes, cancer, cell proliferation, cardiac problems, heart muscle problems, blood pressure problems, and vascular effects. Every one of these 50 studies references one of those effects of this non-ionizing radiation. And further, this paper I have from NASA says, and I'm just going to quote this because it's really interesting just to listen to what NASA says about non-ionizing radiation. This is a quote from the NASA paper from 1981. So we knew that this stuff was harmful. I can show you studies all the way back to 1901. 1981, NASA. Both theories and observations link non-ionizing electromagnetic fields to cancer in humans in 3 different ways. Okay, other effects, such as sounds produced by microwaves, some people can hear them, and visible flashes produced by magnetic fields at power line frequencies are a sample of the interactions described in this paper. Man is changing the terrestrial electromagnetic environment around us. Much of that change is a byproduct of industrial processes and communication, radio, television, and other forms of broadcasting. If man knew the consequences of these changes, he might wish to compensate for them. Okay, and then it says in the next paragraph, the second restriction to this paper requires a clear distinction between ionizing radiation and non-ionizing radiation. And actually, there is none. So quoted by NASA, there is no distinction between non-ionizing radiation and ionizing radiation. This is the sole distinction that the cell phone industry creates their safety standards based on, and NASA says there's no distinction, and that third paragraph, many elements can be ionized with lower energy photons, and some can be ionized twice with photon energies less than that considered ionizing.
So it's been known this entire time, if that study is from 1981, cell phones have only been religiously in our pockets for the last 15 years. We have knowingly been guinea pigs?
We haven't knowingly been guinea pigs. The wireless industry and the government has knowingly made us guinea pigs. Mm-hmm. Most people are completely unaware of this. So cell phones were approved for use in 1973. Nobody got a cell phone until 1983 because it took 10 years to build the infrastructure of cell towers to where you could actually use a cell phone. If anyone could have lifted one of those cell phones for more than 6 minutes, you would have been getting an extreme amount of radiation at 900 megahertz. That was talk frequency. That was 1G technology. And so what happened is we built this infrastructure, and the same year we introduced cell phones, 1983 to 1984, was the same year that the Bioinitiative report came out with 5,000 studies showing harm from wireless radiation. So not only did the U.S. government have the data, the wireless industry had the data, but the public was 100% uninformed. And of course, the safety studies that were created back then and in the 90s were set for a time when probably 5 to 10% of us had cell phones. Today, 95% of us have cell phones and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And with 5G, we're learning, and you'll hear about, there's going to be so much more radiation in our environment. It is literally, we're experiencing 10 to the 18 times more microwave radiation. That's 10 with 18 zeros after it. More microwave radiation through our bodies every second than ever in the history of man. Nobody knows what that's going to do to us.
And 5G is just a label because it goes up to 99G, correct?
5G is a concept. Okay. So 1G was talk, 900 megahertz. 2G was talk and text, and that went up to about 1.8 gigahertz. So I've got the actual numbers here, but just think about how that keeps going up. 3G was talk, text, and a little bit of data. So the frequency went up a little bit more. 4G was talk, text, data, and a lot of data. So you can download videos. You couldn't do that on 3G. Okay, 5G, we already can do everything. We can already download data. We can already download videos. Everyone now has a cell phone. So what's 5G about? It's more of a concept. It doesn't just add another frequency. It adds all the way from 20 gigahertz to 90 gigahertz of frequencies, and it layers every one of those on top of the frequencies we're already using for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So when we say frequencies, again, going back to EMF, every wave has, this wave like a wave in the ocean, and you call that a wavelength. And so each light energy or EMF energy comes from a specific wavelength. So like visible light, we would say it's like 700 nanometers wavelength. When we talk about gigahertz, that's the frequency of waves hitting the shore of the ocean. So 60 hertz is what our AC electrical runs on. So every second, 60 waves hit the beach. That's 60 hertz. Wi-Fi is 2.45 gigahertz. That's 2.45 billion waves hitting the surface every single second. Now we're going to 90 gigahertz. That's 90 billion waves hitting your body every second from 5G, in addition to all the other wavelengths that are hitting your body.
So it's a multiplier.
It's a huge multiplier. And it's not only, when we get into like everything about 5G, not only are there higher frequency waves hitting us, but 5G is all about the Internet of Things. 5G is not really about just going up in frequency. It's a whole concept of basically surveillance and data mining. Everyone already has a phone. Now the big deal is, how do we mine data from you and make a whole bunch of money off of it, and then surveil you every single where you go by using the Internet of Things to connect everything in your home. So now we know everything about you. And the only way to make 5G and driverless cars and Internet of Things happen is to put a 5G cell tower in front of everybody's home, because 5G at these high frequencies doesn't go through trees, doesn't go through buildings, and can't go very far because it can't get around solid objects like some of the other frequencies.
Why is that? It's stronger, but it can't get through solid objects.
Yeah, the wavelengths, the frequency is much closer. So the waves are closer to one another. And part of the way that the waves are designed are different than every other wave in nature. Man has designed these waveforms far differently than natural waveforms. So they're just technically not able to go through solid objects well or at all. And the what's going to happen is, when they can't go through solid objects, you have to have more receivers and more antennas. So think about 5G. It can't go far, so we're going to turn up the power on it. It's going to be way more powerful than the other antennas, and we're going to install them everywhere. And they're going to be way more powerful everywhere, and we're going to have way more of them than anything else, and they're going to be hidden from you. And they're going to be lower. They're not going to be way up in the sky like you see the cell towers today. They're actually going to be hidden at eye level, street level, human level, and they're going to be buried inside street poles. So the wireless industry is already going around to every city and purchasing space on every power pole, street pole, and rooftop to mount these antennas. And if you've seen your streetlights be replaced with LEDs in the last couple of years, they're almost certainly putting 5G antennas in that pole. So you won't even see the antennas anymore. And I've got a bunch of photographs of what these antennas look like, which we can always post later. But these antennas are buried, and they're used for all sorts of surveillance and projecting the 5G. So it's going to be hugely dangerous no matter where you are in an urban population, a population-dense area. You cannot send 5G to the country because you can't send it far enough and it's too expensive.
Is there a way to encase our homes or apartments or offices to protect us from these waves?
Yeah, absolutely. So we said 5G can't really go through solid objects well. So we know of a number of strategies you can protect yourself from EMF in general and 5G. So of course, like the most basic things you have to do, we can just start like super basic. Like the basic ones are totally free. Like the sun and the earth provide natural EMF fields that your body is designed to use and provide information that your body needs to program your hormones, your brain, and your entire physiology. And all of that's free through nature. Our bodies are designed to use it. You need to get outside and see the sun, absolutely see the sunrise, because that's going to reprogram your body away from the EMF frequencies. If you don't see the sunrise every single day naked, and so you can get these cool tan shorts that are tan through shorts, they allow sunlight through them, same with t-shirts. That is the best way to mitigate EMF, is to be outside naked at sunrise and get information that nature is providing your body to clean up cancer, to produce the right hormones you need for optimal health. The second, of course, is get out into nature. Trees block EMF and 5G. The more we get out into nature, the better off we're going to be. So spend as much time as possible in nature and around trees. So if you're going to buy a house or rent a house in a 5G environment, find one away from centers of high population and surrounded by trees. These are all the free things you can do. Pine trees are best. Turn your Wi-Fi off at night. Your Wi-Fi is 2.45 billion wavelengths hitting your body, and when you go to sleep is when you repair. And we have a study, multiple studies, that show not only does blue light, everyone knows this from the Harvard studies, that blue light destroys your melatonin, which is your body's master anti-cancer hormone. It repairs all the damage to your DNA, your mitochondrial DNA at night. That is destroyed by seeing blue light at night. It's also destroyed by your Wi-Fi router at night or 5G at night. So if you're sleeping with your Wi-Fi on and an LED light in your room, you are not getting your melatonin and you're setting yourself up for a mitochondrial disease. Turn off your Wi-Fi at night. I have mine on a timer. I don't have to get up and turn it off. It turns off at 10:30 at night. It turns back on at 5 a.m. Whenever you go to bed and get up, just set it to be off. You don't need Wi-Fi on at night. Put your phone in airplane mode at night. Again, all these things are free. Like if your phone is becoming a wireless microwave antenna and giving off microwaves all night while you sleep and it's under your pillow or next to your head, that's your own fault if you're going to get sick from that. So turn your phone on airplane mode. Get a landline if you absolutely have to take emergency calls at night, or put your phone out in the hallway so it's as far away from you as possible if you have to leave it on. I go so far as to put mine in a Faraday cage. A Faraday cage is just a metal cage that blocks all EMF from my phone from getting to it or coming out of it. Okay, so what do you do to your house? The number one thing you can do to your house is metal blocks all EMF. So metal won't block magnetic fields, which are also a problem from EMF, but lead will. So you can block everything except a magnetic field. Magnetic fields are very hard to block, but you can block every microwave radiation, every 5G with metal. So if you have the money, put metal siding on your house and a metal roof. That's going to mitigate almost all the EMF that's ever going to come into your house. And we know Elon Musk is going to make 5G come from above. So if you don't have a metal roof, that 5G is coming right through your roof. So metal siding, trees around your house. So you can't do metal siding or a metal roof. You can paint your room with shielded paint. So there's paint that you can use and paint your entire ceiling, floor, and walls with. That will block any 5G, any EMF from coming through your walls. You can also buy shielded fabric to drape around your bed and kind of sleep in a Faraday cage. Just like you can put your phone in a Faraday cage, you can sleep inside of one by doing what they used to do back in the old medieval times of surrounding your bed, your four-poster bed, from drapes. You can drape EMF fabric from the ceiling around your bed and protect yourself. So those are kind of the key ways. And when you use your phone, Never, ever, ever, ever put your phone to your head. It even says in your safety manual, if you go to your settings on your iPhone or your Android phone, you can look it up online. The safety standards were designed to not have you touch your phone while it is on. That includes putting it in your hand, putting it to your head, putting it in your pocket, or strapping it to your arm. All of that is a no-go, even in the safety manual from your phone, and it violates the safety test that was performed on your phone. So you must use a pair of headphones or radiation shielded or air tube headphones when you use your phone so you are not touching it.
You told me a story. We're about to be dealing with festival season. Girls, tighter fitting clothes, they like to put their cell phone in their bra. You had told me a story about there was 4 points on a woman's breast that had to be removed because I was putting her cell phone in her bra, correct?
Yeah, so there's a pretty famous YouTube video and online meme you can find about a woman who put her phone into her sports bra all the time. And then when she was diagnosed with cancer, you can see the cancer spots because they irradiated the cancer spots so you could see them on an X-ray or an MRI. And you can see the 4 cancer spots exactly line up with her phone. So, okay, that's one person on the internet. Well, a friend of mine this last summer started a new business, has been keeping her phone in her bra while she's talking on it constantly. She just had 2 lumps removed from her breast in the exact spot that she uses her phone. She's a functional medicine registered nurse. So that was 100% correlated to her cell phone in her bra. This is no joke. And so guys always say, well, that's great. Like, I'm done having kids. I can just keep my phone in my pocket. Like, you don't want ass cancer. You don't want ball cancer. Like, you're not just damaging the semen that's in your balls. You're damaging your body's DNA and setting yourself up for cancer by putting that phone in your pocket when it's on. Like, there is no doubt. There's 5,000 studies that show clear harm from EMF and microwave radiation, including the most recent study is the National Toxicology Program. That's our U.S. government. Finally paid $25 million and spent 14 years proving that cell phones are safe and failed. The conclusion of the 2014 study, so the study concluded in 2014, and the concluding results were cell phone use causes cancer, and that was 1G and 2G that they studied, not 3, 4, and 5G. They did not publish that study because the cell phone industry, who owns the FCC, didn't want it published. So the U.S. government had to be sued through a Freedom of Information Act for that study to be published in 2016 and again in 2018. And the study results are conclusive that cell phone use causes cancer.
Yet we're addicted to them.
We are 100% addicted to our cell phones in the same way you can be addicted to heroin or cocaine or any other drug. Yet the problem is, and most people don't want to hear this, that they can be addicted to something that they can't experience on a physical level. So you're being addicted through these invisible signals. There are numerous patents out in the public sphere. You can Google them. Just Google patent for manipulating the human nervous system through EMF, electromagnetic fields. The patents were created starting in 1981 all the way through 2006. Those patents show how to manipulate the human nervous system through EMF fields like from a phone, a laptop, or a device, from a photo or a video. Those patents were purchased by Facebook and Google. So not only are they using those for sure to change public behavior, but your phone is a blue light device. And when you use social media and you're coating yourself in blue light, you are becoming dopamine deficient. And the only way you get to increase your dopamine is more likes and more loves on your posts. And so people become addicted because they get dopamine hits every time they use that phone. You can get all the free dopamine you want by going outside, but we're an indoor species now. And by being an indoor species, we're way more surveilled and controlled than ever before. In fact, your phone, so every phone uses an LED light. Every television, computer screen, laptop uses an LED light. Every LED light works by flickering. It saves money by turning on and off thousands of times a second. You can manipulate the flicker rate of every light. So the flicker rate that's used in the hardware in your phone was specifically chosen as a hypnosis flicker rate. It can hypnotize you, which all that means is your brain is more suggestible. Why would they want you to be suggestible? Give up more data, tell people where you are, who you're with, post it on social media for the public to see, and then see some ads and buy some shit.
There's a patent from the 1950s regarding the waves coming off our television and how they have this hypnotic approach to them. And you hear about television programming and how people are being programmed. And it's not so much what you're seeing, it's kind of what you're feeling from what's invisibly coming off the television.
Exactly. Yeah, they want to change. They want to manipulate your emotions, which dictate what you do. How you feel and what you think about is what you manifest physically. This has been known for so long, and this has been not only studied but patented, and those patents are being purchased by the big tech companies. Not that all of them are evil. I'm sure, they want to use that information to provide you with the data and information that you want, but also get you to buy things and to sell ads to you, because that's how they make their money.
Ooh. So is there anything good about EMF?
There's absolutely lots of good things about EMF. So in the 1981 NASA paper, as NASA was studying microwave radiation and wireless radiation, there's lots of frequencies that are beneficial to human biology. So I'm staring into a red light right now. That's EMF. There's EMF coming out of that light. It's healing us while we're sitting in front of this red light. Because in front of the window, we're getting mostly blue light through the window, blue light through our screen, blue light through the lights above us. So we're these blue light toxic beings living indoor. So that blue light is beneficial for us if it's balanced by red. And it's always balanced by red outside. Inside, it's not. So we can use EMF to heal ourselves in an indoor environment. We don't have to just always use EMF in a damaging way. The sun provides healing EMF that our body is designed to use and should use. So does the earth. When we're in connection with the earth and the sun, our blood acts as a wireless receiver to receive wireless information from the sun through the blood and deliver it to all of our cells. That heals us. That sets our hormones. That makes us optimally healthy. There are also lots of other EMF wavelengths and frequencies that people use for healing, like pulsed EMF. You have to be really, really careful with pulse EMF. It's called PEMF therapy. You can heal broken bones faster, and you can reduce headaches. You can basically get rid of and cure a headache with pulsed frequencies. However, if you're not careful, you're using them too often or in the wrong way, you can severely damage yourself because the body is so electrically sensitive. But because it's so electrically sensitive, if you do understand it and you use these frequencies in the right way, they can be very healing to the body.
So where do binaural beats fall?
So binaural beats are basically frequencies of sound that are different from one headphone to another. So if you ever listen to binaural beats and you just have it on a speaker, it's not really that effective. But if you have binaural beats on a headphone, what it's doing is the sound coming out of one headphone is slightly out of sync in the sound from the other headphone, such that it sets up a frequency that goes into your brain between the two headphones. That frequency can be designed to be any frequency. So we can set it to, let's say, theta wave, so deep meditation. And then we can put that standing theta wave into our brain and be in a more calm and meditative state. We can put ourselves in an alpha state, a beta state, a sleep state by convincing the brain that it wants to change the brain waves to be a different wave form. That's all EMF. And that, of course, can be extremely beneficial for people suffering sleeplessness, anxiety, all sorts of things.
How can I overdose from EMF, though?
Well, you can overdose from any EMF very quickly. So healing frequencies of EMF. So let's just say, red light is an EMF. It's on the electromagnetic spectrum. It's visible light. So it's a visible EMF. Most EMF we can't see. Red light we can see. Mm-hmm. So you can use red light and it heals your body and it reduces fine lines. It reduces wrinkles. It increases collagen. It speeds wound healing. It gives you more energy. It helps you go to sleep at night if you're not very sleepy. It helps keep your melatonin in your body, which is the body's master anti-cancer hormone. But if you use red light at a certain distance from your body for too long, there's now a negative effect to it. And you can only understand that when you understand how much of that light is hitting your body at any one time. So for red light specifically, you'd have to have a meter and measure it to know when you're getting too much. Same with any EMF. So any EMF, like you can get a tiny bit of an X-ray and you're probably going to be just fine. It might even be hormetic, which means it's a stress that over time makes you stronger. Too much of that is going to make you weaker and cause DNA damage. But the only way you can tell whether you're getting too much of almost any EMF is to measure it with a meter because it's invisible and it's very hard for you to perceive how much you're getting.
Isn't airplane travel very radioactive?
So yes, airplane travel brings you closer to space. there's a thinner atmosphere, so we're getting bombarded with two things: more cosmic radiation that never reaches the surface of the Earth. I mean, you're 10 to 20, 30,000 feet in the air. As you get closer to the surface of the Earth, that radiation is mitigated by our atmosphere. So the more you're in an airplane, remember, it's a metal tube, and metal blocks EMF, but there's windows in it. So as that EMF, that radiation from space, comes in the window, it bounces around in that tube all over the place and into you. Now there's Wi-Fi in the airplane, in a big metal tube full of Wi-Fi radiation. So not only do we have cosmic radiation, we have Wi-Fi radiation coming from in the plane, bouncing around on the metal, going into your body. Then, as soon as you land, everybody turns their cell phone on, which puts more microwave radiation into a metal tube. Then ultraviolet radiation, which we know can damage DNA if you get too much. You're so high in the atmosphere that there is way more ultraviolet radiation than your body is designed to make use of. And the windows are typically open in the plane, so you're bombarding your body with that as well.
Can solar callousing combat that a little bit?
So a solar callus basically means you absorb as much sunlight, and specifically red and infrared light, before you absorb ultraviolet light, which can be damaging. So ultraviolet light is absolutely necessary for your body to make certain hormones, including thyroid hormone. So you can't if you have a thyroid problem, get out in the sun and get some UV. It makes vitamin D, which is this hormone that's known to be responsible for minimizing tons and tons of diseases. You can look that up. So a solar callus means during sunrise or sunset, there's no ultraviolet light in the sun that reaches the Earth. You absorb as much of that sunlight as you possibly can into your naked body. And that has been proven through a number of studies to protect you and make use of more ultraviolet throughout the day. So you can prevent sunburn, you can absorb more ultraviolet and get the benefit from it by absorbing that morning and evening sunlight. If you're flying in an airplane, you want to be absorbing as much red and infrared light as possible before that flight, because you will be bombarded by ultraviolet. I still recommend just people cover up. Wear a baseball hat, wear a hoodie, put on some blue blocking sunglasses, keep your shade drawn. I know I would much rather see the natural sun and look out the window, but all that radiation is super damaging. The more you bake in the morning and evening sun, because there's no UV, the less damage you're going to get from that type of radiation.
Now, can we agree that 5G technology is our end game and that self-driving cars are our end game? Brought to you by that boy, CEO of Tesla.
Yeah, Mr. Elon Musk. So such good ideas, but not...
He's trying to help us, but at the same time, is he aware that he is definitely hurting us as well?
So that's always the question, right? Mm-hmm. Is the wireless industry... who owns the FCC, right? So the FCC is 4 people, none of them a scientist. They regulate the safety of cell phones. They took away safety of cell phones from the EPA. They made the EPA stop studying the safety of cell phones, and they took away funding of every university scientist to study cell phone safety. So there's no question they know that there's a danger. Somebody like Elon Musk, who's so super smart and trying to help humanity, does he understand the dangers? Maybe. And maybe his end game is beyond what we are seeing right now for 5G of harming us, because he's trying to set up a civilization on Mars. And you can't set up a civilization in an atmosphere on Mars without manipulating the Earth's atmosphere. And that's exactly what we're doing with both geoengineering and 5G, is we're manipulating our atmosphere so that we can potentially prove that we can take our red desert up in space and make it habitable. And potentially that's the end game. And so if the end game is progressing mankind while regressing some of us on the Earth currently, I don't know his end game, but I know that 5G is 100% proven dangerous. Is 5G the end game? No, because we're already talking about 6G. So 5, and when you get to high frequencies of 5G and into 6G, we're talking millimeter waves. Go and YouTube millimeter waves in the U.S. military, and you'll find some really cool videos of how the military uses millimeter waves for crowd control and defense. Those are the wavelengths we're already using in 5G, and we're going to use in 6G. 6G is 300 gigahertz and more. We're already talking about using it. That is totally insane.
Isn't that just getting greedy?
You have to remember, our economy today runs off wireless technology. There are more wireless technology lobbyists and more money in wireless technology lobbying in Congress than even pharmaceuticals. So these companies are hugely greedy. And the problem is they know that there's harm from wireless, and not one insurance company in the world will insure them against harm from wireless. So they are completely naked, and they need to make as much money as they possibly can, just like the tobacco industry, before they get sued and have to shell out every dollar of profit to lawsuits. So what they're doing is at the state and federal level, the FCC and the wireless industry, which is the CTIA, is embedding legislation to make it illegal to bring up health in the same vein as wireless radiation. You cannot, by federal and state law, put health together with wireless radiation in a court case, because they know they're not insured against it and they know there's harm. So they're already working at a federal and state level to make sure you can't sue them for health effects.
So they're definitely lawyered up, but they're naked.
Absolutely. So there was already a lawsuit that was won just recently, this past fall in France, proven that EHS, electrohypersensitivity, so sensitivity to wireless. This lady was working in an office building in France and said she was sensitive to EMF and it was making her dizzy. So that's one of the effects of EMF. Nobody believed her at her office. So she went to a medical doctor. He didn't really believe her, so she went to another one. He did believe her. He checked all her symptoms and checked them with EMF and without, and she definitely had physical symptoms of dizziness when she was around too much EMF. She asked to work remotely from her office. The office managers, the people in charge of the company, wouldn't let her. They refused to let her work remotely or to agree that EHS was even a real thing. So eventually she was at work. She got too dizzy from the EMF, fell and hurt herself, sued, and the court allowed her to win that court case. She won the court case, and the court agreed that her symptoms were real, and that company got sued. So that wasn't the wireless company, but that was a private company. So right now, there are people trying to sue the wireless companies for health concerns, but it is very difficult for that to happen. And so I think one of the fun things, like if you remember the movie Thank You for Smoking, mm-hmm. So the tobacco companies knew that there was danger, and they're always trying to use public awareness to turn people's eyes away from the dangers of smoking. And they were trying to fund their own industry-funded studies to prove smoking was safe. So that's the same thing the wireless industry is doing. They're funding their own studies to prove wireless is safe. And the majority, but not all, of their studies show wireless is safe, while the majority, if not all, of the independently funded studies show wireless is not safe. So they're both funding studies to prove it's safe and spending money to attack studies that say it's not safe and put those studies and the authors down so that we turn our eyes away from it, and using lobbyists and public relations officials. So if you remember the movie Thank You for Smoking, they said, here's how we're going to design and talk about smoking to the public. One of the final scenes in that movie is the main character, and he's looking at a group of executives, 3 executives, and says, "So gentlemen, are they safe?" And they all look at each other and they start, "Well, there's an incident in Iowa. We think some of the studies show they're not safe." And he says, "I want you to practice this in front of the mirror every night." While we have no data currently that say cell phones are unsafe, there is not one link in today's literature that links cell phones to brain cancer. So that movie from that scene from Thank You for Smoking goes into the cell phone safety. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, is they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, and they're trying to use doublespeak so that you think cell phones are safe. The whole time they know they're unsafe, they know the data is out there, and they're using their words very carefully to manipulate you to think that they're safe.
Now, the pinnacle of capitalism is when you cause the problem, also provide the solution. Now, in this regard, they're causing the problem. But if they provided the solution, like, say, the cell phone companies started selling metal roofs as well, would that be throwing in the towel and admitting guilt?
That's, of course, the main issue, right? So if they start selling mitigation technologies, they're admitting that there's harm. They can never admit that there's harm, or they're done. Mm-hmm. So the worst thing in the world would be for them to do such a thing. Now, could they start another company that does use mitigation technology and profit off of that and switch over to that company when they get sued and lose all their money? Possibly. That may be something that's going on. But they cannot start selling mitigation technology. What they could do is, it's possible to make EMF wavelengths for our cell phones and Wi-Fi beneficial. So could they start designing infrastructure and devices that use beneficial wavelengths Yes. But think about how many billions and trillions are tied up right now in wireless infrastructure. The military uses this and they are not giving it up. And so that is almost certainly not going to happen.
Now, when I have my cell phone on, my Wi-Fi is on, as well as my data, how far away from my body should I be keeping it where it doesn't cause issues?
Okay, so this is one of those things where there's research out there and the cell phone industry tells you something different. Mm-hmm. Again, so cell phone industry will say 5 to 15 millimeters away from your body is the safety standard. So again, not touching your body. They don't do a study that says the cell phone is safe when it's in your hand and you're scrolling through Instagram. It's not safe, even according to their studies. So they say 5 to 15 millimeters. It's in your user manual. You can look it up on the settings of your phone, and it'll tell you 5 to 15 millimeters. Okay, so that is just talking about using your phone for 6 minutes a day, 5 millimeters away from your body. If you use your phone for more than 6 minutes, it's going to cause a heating effect, and cause damage. Nobody uses their phone for less than 6 minutes a day. So if we look at the real studies that are out there, how far away does your phone have to be before it's not dangerous? So here's a meter. I've got an EMF meter, and it measures microwave radiation. I'm going to turn it on, and basically what it does is it shows visually how many volts per meter of microwave radiation is hitting the meter, and you can hear the microwaves through sound. I'm going to turn the sound on. And what it's going to show us.
Okay, so we got it right up to it.
So you can hear it's right up to it. You can hear the kind of clicking. That's the microwave radiation. And I'm just going to tell you what I've proven with my meter, but also what the studies say is 30 feet away from your phone is the safe distance. Okay, so if your phone is on, it doesn't have to have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and cellular data and the cell signal on. That's 4 antennas. You can turn all the antennas off except for your cell antenna, not the cellular data, the cell antenna, and make a phone call. You don't need all those other antennas on. You can just turn Wi-Fi on. My phone actually makes phone calls on Wi-Fi, so I can just have Wi-Fi on. But I don't ever use Bluetooth. Why would I ever want that on and irradiating me all the time? So this meter, and we can actually show you by sound. So my cell phone's on airplane mode, and you can kind of hear the meter. I'm going to put it up here, and you can hear it beeping. I'm going to turn it on to Wi-Fi and just listen to what happens to the meter.
It's redlining. Yeah.
So that's not static from the microphone. That is the meter redlining because there's so much microwave radiation when I put my phone in Wi-Fi and then when I put my phone on cellular data. Your phone has 4 antennas in it that are not only receiving microwave radiation from the cell tower, from the Wi-Fi router, and from your Bluetooth device, but they're projecting microwave radiation out from those antennas. So it's not just a receiver, but it's also a microwave radiation device. So when you turn those antennas on, that is bathing your body in microwave radiation as close as you can possibly get it in your pocket, your bra, up to the side of your head, and irradiating your brain. And you could hear that on that meter that I've got. And you have to be 30 feet away from your phone before that signal dims down to a safe level.
Plot twist, if you microwave your cell phone, a blue genie shows up.
You should try it sometime. So that, and you know what's cool is I'm talking about microwave radiation, right? So the same radiation that you use to cook your food, think about putting a steak in your microwave. Does it get dried out and hard and chewy if you put it in there and you microwave your steak and you don't put a wet paper towel around it? Yes, that's awful. Those are the exact same microwaves that are around us every single day from our phone. The only difference is the power that's pushing those waves into our body is lower from a cell tower than it is from a microwave oven. So if you think about we're being microwaved all day long, why are we more dehydrated? Why are we having so many mitochondrial, ADHD, autism, microbiome problems? Because
autoimmune disorders have gone through the roof, it seems.
Autoimmune disorders are your body not recognizing safe things as safe and attacking your own body. Because your body works off quantum information from the sun, and we're providing the body quantum information from man-made devices designed to sell products and pass information to devices and not designed for human health.
Dude, your upper lip is getting so sweaty just from ripping off so much information. Look at this guy right now. You're on fire, dude. The red light is just blasting you in the face. How often, plot twist, how often do you sit in front of the red light?
Okay, so personally, it is winter, so I can't get outside. If it was summer, I would not sit in front of the red light. And if I lived in Florida or anywhere south where it is warm right now, I would be outside. Literally, I make my office outside. So I work for a big corporation, and I work from home, so I can sit outside. When I go back to corporate headquarters, I sit outside. We have outside picnic tables. I bring my laptop outside. The Wi-Fi reaches out there. You want to be outside all day long if you can make that happen. If it's winter like it is right now, so I have a full body panel red light. So I stand in front of that red light completely naked every single morning for 20 minutes, 10 minutes front, 10 minutes back. If I had more time, I would do it 3 times a day for 20 minutes each time.
Interesting. Now, you had mentioned people being able to hear the waves like a buzz. Is that a gift or a curse?
Oh my gosh. So in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, it would have been a gift because you could have gotten away from it. So what was happening is on a naval research base, actually a naval base, people were claiming they could hear the radar and the sonar, and everyone thought they were crazy. Well, they finally brought in a professor from one of the New York State universities, and he came in and he said, well, EMF waves can be blocked by metal. So he put a metal hat, tinfoil hat, over some of the people that claimed they could hear radar waves. And when they put the metal hat over their ears and their head, they no longer heard the waves. So people can hear these microwave radiations and radio waves. And in today's world, if you can hear those, like tinnitus in your ear, do you want ringing in your ear all day long? And especially if you live in an urban area where you cannot get away from the microwave radiation and you work in an office building that's microwave with Wi-Fi and cell service, you're going to have tinnitus in your ear all day when you go to bed all night, unless you're blocking it with metal. So I'd say in today's world, that's a huge curse.
And I kind of feel that way too, because I've always been able to tell if a TV's on inside a house while standing outside of it. About 5 years, for 3 years, I had this storm chasing gig. It was a door knocking gig. And I had a partner, and we played this game one afternoon where he thought it was a fluke that I could guess if someone's television was on inside the house. But for an entire afternoon, we would walk up to houses and I would tell him accurately whether or not a television was on in the house. And growing up, I always thought it was like a gift, like a goofy game I could play. Oh, I could tell if a TV's on or not. But now when you break it down, I'm starting to realize it's a curse being able to sense that.
Well, yeah. So that means you're more sensitive to EMF than other people. And that also could mean, and this is just a theory of mine, it could mean you're one of the canary in the coal mines. So you're more sensitive to these EMFs, which also means your physiology, your body is more sensitive to them, which means you can develop a mitochondrial disease more quickly than others. So someone like you has to be more in tune with your environment and fixing your environment so that it's safe for you and your biology.
So I should get my Wi-Fi router out of my bedroom closet, is what you're saying.
If your Wi-Fi router is anywhere near your bedroom, I'm sorry, but you get what you get. You've got to take your Wi-Fi router. So think about this. Like most people hey, this is where my cable comes in. I'm going to stick my Wi-Fi router there. Never, ever, ever put your Wi-Fi router in a room that you are in for any length of time. And if it is, that can be okay as long as when you're in there, it's turned off. Turn off your Wi-Fi router at night because that's when you're in your bedroom. Or they make metal cages specifically for Wi-Fi router. It's a Wi-Fi router Faraday cage, and you just put your Wi-Fi router right into the cage, and that's going to reduce a lot of the radiation from it. But that also means your Wi-Fi is not really going to work when it's in that cage.
That's why we had to put it in there, because we had it in a different part of our house, and it was just horrible. I couldn't tap in. It was like I had 3G service in my entire house. So we found a central location, which ended up being my bedroom closet.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like moving the Wi-Fi router to where it needs to be for you to get service. So here's what I recommend is if you're going to sleep, turn off your Wi-Fi router. So I have mine on a timer. So it just, like I said, it turns off when I go to bed and it turns on when I wake up. So I guarantee it's not going to be on when I'm sleeping. But you can go into your laptop and you can turn off the Wi-Fi on the router and the modem still works. So you can basically go into your router settings, turn off the Wi-Fi, the modem is still on, you can hard connect a landline to that and run your laptop off a landline, which runs faster anyway. Now there's no Wi-Fi on. Interestingly, you can run your phone off that landline too. So they make adapters for phones that plug into the same place where you would plug your cord or a USB into your phone, iPhone, Android, and you can make basically a USB to LAN connection. So you can be using your phone on the internet on a landline without any Wi-Fi, without any cell service, and without any cellular data. You can be on airplane mode, but you can be completely online on your phone.
Say I go to anything that can be transmitted through Wi-Fi, all the cell phones, all the laptops in my house. Say I shut off the Wi-Fi in every single one of them. Is Wi-Fi still floating through my air?
Yeah, so it depends where you live. Go to your phone and scroll down to your Wi-Fi connection and look at the Wi-Fi connections that your phone can pick up. You're going to pick up a lot of Wi-Fi if you live in an apartment or an urban area. That doesn't mean that all those Wi-Fi sources are extremely dangerous. Some of them, your phone can pick it up, but might be too weak to harm your body. That's one of the main things that you need these testers for. Everything's invisible. So your phone, just because it's picking up Wi-Fi from 50 different neighbors, does not mean that all 50 of those are harming you. It might only be 2 of your neighbors that are so powerful. You know, some of these people work for wireless companies or Comcast, and they put boosters in their home because they want super strong signal everywhere, including their yard. Well, that boosts it into your home too. So those are the ones you have to watch out for, are the guys with like 4 routers and signal boosters. But you really need some of these EMF testers or a geobiologist. So a building biologist or a geobiologist. So you get a building biologist that knows geopathic stress, EMF stress, and has all the meters to test all of it. They come into your home, they test what's going on in your home, and then they will tell you what your issues are. Your issues might be the cell tower across the street. Your issues might be your own Wi-Fi. Your issue might be your electric toothbrush that has more EMF than your Wi-Fi router. Those are all things like a building biologist will test, and you really need a meter to tell. Until you test, you have no idea what your environment is doing to you.
What stone haven't we turned over yet?
Oh my gosh, there's still so much we could talk about.
I know.
There's so many studies of the different ways. So like maybe like some things about like what does wireless do to people? What are the harm?
Okay, so you had said in the 80s, the NASA study, there's 3 ways that it harms us.
So the NASA study had 3 ways, which like one was cancer, one was calcium channel, voltage gated calcium channel activation. So when Wi-Fi hits our body, everyone was saying, okay, it's not ionizing, it's not knocking an electron out of the atom. So therefore it's safe. Well, no, one of the things that we found wireless radiation, non-ionizing radiation does is open voltage-gated calcium channels. So these are voltage-gated. They use electricity, just like the heart and the brain use electricity. And it opens a calcium channel in the cell and floods it with calcium. When this happens, the cell is not used to all that calcium coming in the cell. It's used to a little bit from natural EMF, not as much as what comes in from man-made EMF. When that happens, the cell produces free radicals. These free radicals damage the cell. So the cell produces proteins and other things, antioxidants, to quench the free radicals. The free radicals that are created from microwave radiation are such that the body has no mechanism designed to quench them. So we flood the cell with calcium. We create a free radical, hydroxyl free radical. There's no quenching mechanism in our body. So therefore, our cell becomes damaged, our mitochondria becomes damaged, and our DNA can become damaged from these voltage-gated calcium channels opening from EMF. We know that's happening because you can take a calcium channel blocker, like for heart issues, and it stops the effect of EMF. Mm-hmm. So you can find like over-the-counter calcium channel blockers if you want to kind of mitigate EMF if you're going to be in a super high EMF environment like an airplane.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to tell you what those are because I'm not a doctor, but look up natural calcium channel blocker, and I bet you'll find a couple supplements that do just that.
So why aren't you selling those on primalhacker.com?
So I sell 2 supplements right now, and I'm trying to get out of the supplement game. I believe that sunlight is all the supplement. Between sunlight and seafood, you get all the supplementation you need because the sun is a compound pharmacy that connects wirelessly to our body to produce any substance that your body needs, and including supplements. The sun, and we know from Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared. So E is energy, C is the speed of light, and M is mass. When you change one of those variables, another variable has to change. So if you slow down the speed of light, you have to increase mass to keep the equation the same. So Einstein's equation tells us that if we slow down sunlight, which is what happens when sunlight hits our eye, our body is designed to slow the sunlight down, we are creating mass. We can create hormones and supplements in our body depending on what we need, if we're connected to nature and the sun. So I'm trying not to sell some more supplements because there's all these rules and regulations that come with them, but I can kind of steer you in the right direction to get those from other sources.
Okay, now you have two options on Amazon. You have a $70 book and you have a $1,000 book. I would recommend the $1,000 book. It's written by Philip M. Parker. He's a PhD. It's called the 2020 to 2025 World Outlook for Calcium Channel Blocker. Oh boy. Yeah, they're prepping us. They're getting us ready.
Yeah. Why is autism skyrocketing? Why are mitochondrial diseases skyrocketing? Why are cancers, certain types of cancer skyrocketing? So here's one of the other things we didn't talk about, 5G. 5G is 24 gigahertz to 90 gigahertz. It'll come from above in the west, and it'll come from cell towers on the ground in the east. So west of the Mississippi, most of it can come from overhead. East of the Mississippi, it'll come from another direction. And every city can use a different frequency of 5G, somewhere between 24 and 90. All those frequencies do different things to the human biology. So one of the things that'll happen is LA is going to have different mitochondrial diseases than New York. So when people start to try to sue the wireless industry and say, well, I got sick and here's what I got, and they're going to say, we have the same, 5G in LA and we're not seeing, incidents of eye cancer in LA. We're seeing, prostate cancer, because your body's going to react to the different wavelengths of 5G, the different frequencies they're putting in every different city. Your city to city will have different frequencies of 5G. So the diseases and the mitochondrial damage that occur city to city will be different.
There's been so much talk about diet and how that could cause things like red meat and prostate cancer.
Right.
Now, how much is it diet or how much is it these EMFs?
So I study a lot of things from a medical doctor, Dr. Jack Kruse, and one of his famous quotes is, every year 250 diet books are published and we still haven't fucking figured it out. Why haven't we figured out diet with 250 books published every year? One of them should have got it right. And people can eat carnivore diet, and some people do awesome and some people don't. People can eat ketogenic, and some people do great and some people don't. People can eat vegan, and some people do well and some people don't. Except the place where there's the most vegetarians and vegans in the world is southern India. And right now, southern India is the largest area in the world for diabetes. They have 72 million people with type 2 diabetes just recently because they are the tech capital of India. So, does diet matter? Yes, but light and wireless invisible information matter to your body way more than food. If you get your light and radiation environment right, you can ignore food and still be optimally healthy.
Now, where we're born on this planet affects our DNA. Does that affect how susceptible we are to have issues with EMF?
So most scientists in research and academia today are studying all changes in humans based on the genetic DNA, what most people think about when they say DNA. However, what affects you and your body is your mitochondria, not your nuclear DNA. Your mitochondria have their own DNA. We are not studying mitochondrial DNA, except for Dr. Doug Wallace, who's out on the East Coast. He's one of the most famous researchers on mitochondria and how it's the mitochondria that lead to all diseases. Your mitochondria come 100% from your mother, none from your dad. So when people talk about DNA, I've got some stuff from my dad, some from my mom, not the case in mitochondria. where your mother's ancestors were from dictate your mitochondria. So if they were from an equatorial zone like Africa, you are called a coupled haplotype. And that means your mitochondria make energy from food electrons through the electron transport chain. And you are going to be more affected by EMF if you are away from your natural environment on the equator, because you're not getting enough solar sunlight and information to your skin. So when you're in a northern environment that your mitochondrial DNA are not adapted to, you are going to be affected far faster and far more heavily than someone who is adapted to the climate that they're in. So if you're a northern European ancestral mitochondrial DNA and you're living in a northern environment, you might be able to use cold and light to protect yourself from the 5G technology if you're using it in the right way. But someone who's got equatorial or a different haplotype from Southern Asia is not going to be able to protect themselves nearly as well unless they're in a very strong solar environment.
Are you able to tell by how pasty people are, whether they have blue eyes? Are you able to tell anything external?
So you can guess based on, if someone's white and they've got blue eyes and they've got blonde hair, they're probably Northern European ancestry, but that means nothing. Mm-hmm. That's your genetic DNA. It's your mitochondrial DNA. And you might be pretty surprised when you do a genetic test and find out that your genes are actually from Africa or Asia or South America, somewhere on the equator. So that you cannot find by looking at someone. So I have a friend that I met in Mexico this winter, and he's a white guy. He lives in Wisconsin, and he basically calls himself a black man in a white body because his mitochondrial DNA is haplotype like L0, equatorial mitochondrial DNA. He needs to be in the strongest solar environment possible to be healthy. He cannot be healthy in Wisconsin.
The funniest plot twist is going to be when Donald Trump finally takes a 23andMe test and he comes back 20% Hispanic.
If only we could see those data.
I know. Okay, so there are some stones we haven't unturned yet. Have you read through all these studies?
I have read through a lot of the studies. There are 5,000. Mm-hmm. So have I read 5,000 studies? No. Anybody can read them. You can go to bioinitiative.org. Every one of the studies is listed there, including these color-coded studies that give you a color code based on what the study found as the effect of the radiation. There's 50 of those. So if you read through them, they're basically looking at animals and humans and how they react. And again, the U.S. military, the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy have all been doing these studies for decades and all have data on harm from wireless. You can find those studies. I think I've got one here. It is called, and I've read this one, Current State and Implications of Research on Biological Effects of Millimeter Waves. This is a review by the Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, the U.S. Army Medical Research Department, and the Division of Human Effectiveness Directorate of the Air Force. So that's a military study. This was done in 1998. And I have read this, but they're referencing studies within this study going back to the early 80s. So one from 1980, 1989, 1990. So these show effects of millimeter wave microwave radiation, 30 to 300 gigahertz. Remember, 5G is 24 to 90 gigahertz. So millimeter waves are 5G technology and military technology. And we already know there's harm because the DoD, Department of Defense, is already using them for crowd control. So I've read a number of the studies, but there's no way I've read all of them.
Now, we all know mankind, we're kind of a lazy race. We're a productive race, but we have become a extremely lazy race. Is it going to come down to us just taking a pill to play the prevention game? Or are we actually going to do something about it? What's going to cause the paradigm shift for us to wake up, put these things at bay, these little EMF transmitters in our pocket, put them to the side? What's it going to take? Is it just going to be us taking a pill, or are we actually going to do something about it?
Okay, so if you look at history and human sociology, yes, everyone's going to want to take a pill and mitigate it. So, can I find a calcium channel blocker and be on that the rest of my life and now I'm fine? That's what people are going to try. That's not going to do it. So, you're not going to put down your phone, nor is anyone, especially in the younger generation who grew up with these cell phones. In a research study, when they were asked to either give up food or give up their phone, they chose to give up food. Nobody wants to give up their phone. I mean, you are addicted to your phone. Think about who do you know that doesn't have their phone on them at any time, ever? You go running with this phone. You take a bath with this phone. It's next to you in the shower. It's with you when you sleep. You bring it traveling. You bring it to the woods. You bring this phone everywhere. Nobody's going to give it up. The world runs on wireless technology. The military uses wireless technology, and our economy runs off of it. It's not ever going to go away, but it can change. And what it's going to take to change is a whole bunch of people learning that there's danger, trying to protect themselves, and finally failing till we have epidemic levels of disease and mitochondrial dysfunction. And at that point, there will be a change because we know human nature doesn't change until it has to. So I'm one of those people that I try to stay optimally healthy and learn everything I can because I don't want to wait till I have cancer to get healthy. But we know that 95% of everyone else waits till they're dying before they decide to get healthy.
Say my mitochondria gets out of whack. I'm aware of it. Is there any way to reverse that by using red light therapy, staying away from my phone, staying away from EMF?
Absolutely. The human body is so adaptable and you can reverse nearly any disease. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say, hey, I'm not a doctor. So the sunlight is nature's vaccine for cancer. If you get a mitochondrial disease or cancer, now game is on. Like you have to make a decision. It is your environment that is doing that to you. Are you going to stay in the same environment or are you going to make a change? If you make a change, can you reverse what just happened? Almost certainly. Not in every case, but in nearly every case, using the right wavelengths of light, red light, infrared light, ultraviolet light, and sunlight, as well as blocking and mitigating all the EMF. We didn't talk about like using water. So water is a natural Faraday cage. So yes, my opinion, you can reverse a mitochondrial disease. Water is a natural Faraday cage. Get into water. Natural bodies are better outside, but get into water and cold as often as you can because the body uses cold adaptation to help with some of these things as well. But for some people, the only time that they can really get away from EMF is sitting in a bathtub or a body of water because that is a Faraday cage blocking you from the EMF.
Is that why I'm addicted to showers?
Why are you addicted to showers?
Lord,
I didn't know that.
Save me. Lord, save me. No, I call them shower epiphanies, where I get in there and I just have all these deep creative ideas or doomsday ideas, one of the two. Like I'll be in there scrubbing my buttocks, and I'm thinking, what would Thaddeus do? What would he be telling me right now?
Can you not think about me when you're touching yourself?
Too late. Okay, so we understand what EMF is now. We are trying to understand the prevention game, and flat out, the only prevention game is stay away right now. We have the youth of America who are now addicted to these things. We have grandmas who are addicted to these things. These things pay us money. We make transactions. I sign contracts on my phone. Thaddeus, Elon Musk understands what he's doing. They're saying that they're not going to, after the year 2030, they're not going to sell combustive engines anymore in vehicles. It's going to be all electric based. If they're going to be ran off of 5G, how do we escape that?
So not only is the vehicle potentially driverless, and that's part of what 5G is about, driverless vehicles, but if it runs off electricity and big magnets, that's a ton of EMF just from that. So try measuring the EMF in a Tesla sometime. They don't do any mitigation. I'm sure if Elon Musk knew about some of that, he could figure out a way to make that happen, and that probably will in the future. How are you going to get away from the future? And I'm saying you cannot get away from it in high population density areas. So the people that study this intimately and that know this really, really, really well, here's how you get away from 5G. It's not going to be in the country. So you find a population density with 5 to 10,000 people or 20,000 people or less, And that's where you decide to move to with close access to an urban center if you need to get into it. You don't live in an urban center ever because you need to recover during your sleep phase, and you're never going to be able to do that in an urban center. Not only is the urban center filled with EMF and 5G, but it's filled with blue light, which now finally everyone's starting to get the note about blue light and how toxic it is when it's unopposed by red and infrared. But 5G is there. And get away to the country, get a place that's outside of the range of the 5G, and only come into the city in high population areas when you need to. Because think about not just 5G from antennas, but if you turn this meter on and we all turn on our cell phones, now the meter goes off the charts. So the more people in an area, not just the more 5G antennas, but the more everybody has their phone on, which irradiates you even more from those antennas from everybody's phone. We haven't even talked about tattoos yet. Should we talk about tattoos?
You can't. Cliffhangers aren't allowed, sir. So I'm filled up.
Oh no,
I'm filled up. So does that expose me even more?
So here's the deal with 5G. Okay, let me just say two things about tattoos and 5G. Okay, so one thing is when millimeter waves, so the 5G waves, when they hit the skin, they stimulate sweat glands. The sweat gland is an antenna for wireless activity, wireless radiation. So when 5G hits you, your sweat gland turns on, which makes your skin more moist, which makes it a better antenna. The sweat gland itself is an antenna, and it becomes a mini antenna for 5G. It uses your arm as a conductive surface to transmit an electric current on your skin. That's called jump conduction. So your skin is making an electric current, which is affecting every one of your cells negatively. Now imagine if you have tattoos with metal ink. What does metal and current do? Metal conducts current way better than human skin. So all those tattoos that you've got do two things. They are blocking your skin from absorbing the good wavelengths of radiation, like vitamin D from the sun, and they are jump conducting, making an electric current out of that 5G that goes through your clothing. Doesn't matter if you're bearing your tattoo to the world, your clothing is not a barrier for EMF, and it's using that as an antenna, and the more ink you've got, the more metal you've got in your body to conduct that right into you.
Oh, baby. You might as well just line me up now. This actually kind of brings me into I think one of my final points. I really do feel that our end game is probably us being skinwalkers, where we will be transporting our consciousness into a new biological body or maybe a robotic body eventually. So as we become more aware of this and how our sweat glands are conductive, do you think we'll just kind of be avoiding this meat body and hopping into another one? Since I've already, in a nutshell, fucked myself.
So the mitigation is lots of water immersion for you and lots of natural sunlight grounded barefoot to the earth.
Okay.
The more sunlight you get on those tattoos, the better off you're going to be.
Okay.
And then anytime you're in a 5G environment, you're just fucked. Sorry. That's bad news. So watch those things carefully. Keep them in the sun.
I've got more coming too.
Oh my gosh. So what? What is the end game? So there's certainly a huge group of people, the singularity people and the transhumanists that are pushing for that. And eventually, are we going to say, okay, we fucked our planet already and it's not designed for humans to live on. So what's the next evolution of humanity? It's embedding more electronics in ourselves to take care of some of those problems. And eventually, downloading our consciousness into a mechanical body that can then progress through life for much, much longer. Most everyone wants to live forever. So it appears that we're kind of moving in that direction. There's going to be a huge group of people that don't want to move in that direction and a huge group of people that do. So I think that is coming, and who's to say how fast, but are we going to see more implantables to get rid of some of these things? In the short term, those are going to be major disasters, but I know we're going to see more of those. I don't know that I'm signing up for any of that, but I can guarantee that's the direction we're starting to move.
I cannot wait for the first Dr. Drew reality show where he's dealing with the depressed people who move their consciousness into a robot, like the first beta version, and Dr. Drew's stuck picking up the pieces.
Oh, it's coming. Maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe.
Yeah, everyone wants to throw out years of when it's going to happen, and personally, I don't know. I think we're all just waiting on our coastal lines to cave in on themselves first, and then we'll worry about hopping in a Rocket Man and taking off. You know?
Well, that's, so what did we just admit this year I think it was Harvard just admitted, so they didn't say they admitted, they said, we're going to start spraying the atmosphere with particles to block the sun. To do this geoengineering. So, well, guess what? I'm looking out at chemtrails right now. We've been doing that for how many decades already? But we needed enough people to know about it that we finally had to admit it. So Harvard said, starting, quote unquote, this spring, we're going to start spraying particles in the air to block the sun. So we're already starting the process of this geoengineering to create a way to make an atmosphere on a planet like Mars so that we can upload our consciousness to robots and live somewhere else. So it's coming. How soon? Not for me to say.
As woo-woo as chemtrail sounds, we've been doing it forever. We did it to ruin the embargo routes in Vietnam, where we would seed the clouds or seed the atmosphere. It would create a lot of heavy rainfall, and then we were washing out embargo routes. So it's been happening.
It's been happening. You can see them. I can see chemtrails that weren't there when I was a kid, and they're not over normal flight paths of where airplanes would fly to the airport. And they're just, so you think there's some geoengineering, and it's been admitted and then not admitted, but now Harvard is finally saying they're going to start it this spring, blocking the sun. Why would you ever, who thinks that it's going to be a good idea to block the sun? Like the one thing that's been present on this earth forever, and we think we know better and we're going to block it. So maybe we're just admitting now that we're going to make chemtrails a little more public knowledge, but anytime you do this geoengineering and start messing with nature, there are consequences.
Now, will they do that just to provide rain in places that have severe drought?
So that's more climate manipulation of the weather. And I don't know that they've admitted to weather manipulation except in a few studies. And there's been a few studies and reports of weather manipulation, but cloud seeding and spraying metal particles is to reflect sunlight so that supposedly you can dampen the effect of global warming, not necessarily change the moisture rates in different places.
I just learned that the amount of disease, incurable disease that we have no inkling to even provide an answer to is frozen in our glaciers. And once global warming causes these glaciers to melt, the diseases will come out of them, and we won't have any control.
Oh, as well as uncovering the alien bases that are in Antarctica. So that'll be awesome also.
Are you about that life? Is that going to be episode 2?
I don't know enough about that.
We don't have it on the docket about alien bases down in Antarctica that Hitler escaped to.
Exactly.
But,
most of the Nazi party who didn't come here in Operation Paperclip to the U.S.
I think this is a good idea as we carry on, because this is episode 1 out of a series we're going to be doing, and we're doing it in seasons. So I don't know if we've established 6 or 8 part seasons, but we should kind of decide on what we want for episode 2. I have concussions down, but we also have the possibility of sun callousing, clean gut biome inflammation, the power of water, I think would be a very interesting one, because that could tap into electrifying water, correct?
Absolutely.
Have you had any thoughts on where we would go with episode 2?
So, yeah, I think we talked about pyramid power.
Yes.
So that's on the list to talk about.
Meridian grid, the power of pyramids.
Yes. So I think solar callus, pyramid power, or water would be really good next episode.
What do you guys think? What would be interesting to hear?
Power water. Yeah.
Power of water?
Ooh, all right.
Okay, episode 2.
Water.
The crowd spoke water, baby. You guys, thank you. This is the Dumb It Down podcast with Thaddeus Owen and Nikolai, the stationary astronaut. We appreciate you. We will talk soon.
Hookah shaka, hookah, hookah, hookah shaka.